After months of complicated negotiations, the U.S.-led nuclear talks with Iran may be on the verge of a deal. In broad terms, Iran would rein in its pursuit of nuclear weapons. In exchange, the world loosens its stranglehold on a defiant regime. Iran's sanctions are lifted, and a longtime enemy of the United States gains even more power in a volatile region. No surprise here. Many believe this deal will not make the world a safer place. Those skeptics include U.S. lawmakers and even critical Washington allies. Jim Walsh is an international security analyst and a research associate at the MIT Security Studies program. He joins us now from Watertown, Massachusetts. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. How are you, Carol?
I'm good. So we've been hearing that a deal has been close, more than once, but supposedly
Yes.
This time, later today, there will be a deal. Do you believe it?
I do think that's true. There were some last-minute snags overnight. I understand that one of the three of those snags has been resolved. I think in the end we're going to get this. None of the parties wants a formal extension. Maybe they'll drag it on an extra few hours, but no one wants to do this again. They have come so close, closest than they've ever been before. And in contrast to what some of the skeptics say, I think this agreement, if it's sort of what they announced back in April with the framework, this will be a very good deal for U.S. national security, for regional security, and for domestic oil prices.
Well, it's like 100 pages long, but hopefully lawmakers will read through it before they make up their minds about it, right? But what should we look for on the positive side?
Well, on the positive side, the most important thing will be that it will block Iran's pathways to the bomb. They've agreed to very significant restrictions on their centrifuges. They're going to cut their centrifuges by 2/3. They're going to cut the amount of nuclear material they keep in stock on their territory by roughly 90%. And they're going to open up to greater and more intrusive inspection. And in return, they're going to get sanctions relief. Now, this will have all sorts of consequences, but the main thing, the core point, is that it will put Iran on a path where it will not become a nuclear weapons state. That's the single most important benefit of an agreement like this.
So what are the red flags we should look for?
Well, I think some people are worried, what does this agreement look like 15 years out when some of those restrictions start to melt away? Not all of them do. Many of them are in perpetuity. They last forever. But some people worry, what's this going to look like? Other people worry, well, if they're going to get sanctions relief, they'll be a more wealthy country. Won't they use this for nefarious things like terrorism and this and that? And what I say to those people is there's no such thing as a nuclear agreement unless Iran has restrictions coming off. So if you don't want the restrictions to come off, then that's you're essentially saying, I want Iran to continue its nuclear program. I don't think anyone wants that. And frankly, I think Iran is bogged down. They're playing defense. They're defending Assad in Syria, and they're losing. They're fighting ISIS in Iraq. That's also a defensive battle. So I think they have their hands full with their own problems. But the main thing, again, the core issue is nuclear weapons, and a deal that prevents that is a deal worth having.
I think, though, that critics say, bottom line here is the United States should squeeze Iran as much as it can, just put more sanctions in, really cripple their economy, make Iran useless in the world. Why wouldn't that be a better route to take?
Well, I think sanctions are a lot like prescription medicine. You know, there's some people who think more is better, but that's not true of prescription medicine. And just piling more sanctions on can actually end up killing the patient here and making them dig in. Part of this is we've seen this history. We've been at this now for a while. So in 2005, Carol, negotiations broke down. At that point, Iran had 164 centrifuges. When those negotiations broke down and everyone walked away, we put on sanctions and they built 19,000 centrifuges and began enriching at 20%. So both sides can impose costs on the other, but neither side can force the other one to do what it wants to do. It's only through a voluntary negotiation where people say, if you do this, I'll do that. That's the only way this thing is going to get resolved.
Jim Walsh, thanks for your insight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.